A very good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to the first of three webinars to be held this week to celebrate GIS Day. The theme for today is integrating the African community through GIS. My name is John Lamte. I work with Sambus Geospatial Limited, and I'll be your moderator for the next hour. Just for the house rules, all panelists and participants should be muted when not talking, and you can use the raise hands tab or type your questions into the chat or Q&A box. I will kickstart the questioning and continue with that of participants. For the purpose of not going beyond our scheduled time, kindly make your questions brief so that we can finish everything within the next hour. For today's seminar, we have two distinguished and accomplished professionals who will be our speakers. But before I introduce the first speaker, let me first welcome the Managing Director of Sambus Geospatial Limited, Madame Ekwa Abua, to give us a welcome address. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and thank you to everyone. Good morning, distinguished professors, business leaders, and representatives, engineer students, great GIS communities, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ekwa Abua, and I am the Managing Director of Sambus Geospatial. First of all, I would like to say a big thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today. And for a second, let me just put on my mic so you can see my face as I speak. We are honored to have all of you that have been with us for years, and we gladly welcome all who are new to Sambus Geospatial and this privileged GIS community. To celebrate the World GIS with us by participating in our 3-day seminar spread through the week, hence the GIS Week Celebration. Honestly, 2020 has been a year where we have seen a great deal of turmoil between COVID-19 and so many other uprisings across the region. However, it is this same 2020 which has unraveled the beauty and importance of GIS. From Johns Hopkins dashboard to Nigeria Center for Disease Control to Ghana Health Service, ArcGIS has given governments and decision makers the right tools and insights to access the impact and spread of COVID-19, thereby facilitating smart prevention methods. It is our hope that as we celebrate GIS Day this week, these knowledge-packed sessions on GIS technologies would reveal deep insights into how geospatial innovation can be beneficial to our users, our communities, the cause to fight COVID-19, and to place our economies back onto the growth trajectory. We are really looking forward to establishing useful connections with everyone who attends these seminars in order to accomplish our common goal of embracing geospatial transformation and to build a sustainable infrastructure that will alter decision and policy-making processes globally. Thank you for your attention and enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you very much, Madame Ekwa Abua. So I want to introduce our first speaker for the webinar. He holds a PhD in Earth Science and Geoinformation Science from the US, an MS from Environmental Studies from the US, an MA International Affairs from the US, an MPhil in Geography and Resource Development from the University of Ghana, a BA Geography and Resource Development with Political Science, also from the University of Ghana. His areas of specialization, geographic information systems and spatial intelligence, remote sensing applications for land use and land cover monitoring, climate change, climate vulnerability in savanna ecosystems, population, poverty, and land degradation nexus, climate change and climate vulnerability in coastal communities of Ghana, climate change, climate degradation, and food security nexus, urbanization and urban environmental planning. He is currently a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me to welcome Dr. Alex Berima Owusu.
Oh, thank you very much, John. To start with, please let me show my face before I share my screen, so probably some of you will know me. Yeah, let me thank you so much for this opportunity to be with this community. And I must also thank all of you for welcoming me to your homes. I guess you can see that I don't have a face mask. In Ghana here, the protocol is that before you enter anybody's country or anybody's home, at least you should have a negative PCR test within the last 72 hours. And I'm glad to inform you that I have a negative PCR test over the last 12 hours. So coming to your home, welcoming you to your home, I must say thank you very much, and you are safe with me today. I'm gonna share my screen with you so you can have access to my presentation as a test now. And so let me switch from here to sharing my screen as quickly as possible so we don't have to waste too much time. All right, so we'll start the presentation right from here. As John said, my topic for discussion is based on the theme for the day, which is integrating the African community through geographic information systems. And I was introduced as being a senior lecturer at the Department of Geography and Resource Development, University of Ghana, and the administrator of the Remote Sensing and GIS Application Laboratory. I must say, over the years, we've had a very good partnership with Sambus Geospatial, and we still maintain that good relationship. So Sambus Geospatial, thank you very much for this opportunity to bring us together in 2020, even under these extreme circumstances. So thank you so much, and we look forward to future more interesting collaborations. So this will be the outline for my presentation. And for my presentation, I must say I will deviate from the normal one of talking about African integration per se, and perhaps not being here to talk about Sambus, but to move a little bit different. So we probably want to look at the Africa we don't know. We want to look at Africa as a community, the GIS community, or GIS as a community-based technology, the challenges of GIS integrating African community, and then we'll look at how we can turn the tide and look at our common destiny and explore areas of opportunities and constraints. And then probably you will have the opportunity to tell us in your environment what areas we can explore. So basically, I will start by saying this is the Africa we know. When you ask anybody, will tell you the big Sahara in the north, we have the forest belt, we have some strategic points, they'll give you the latitudes and longitudes. That's it. That's the most important thing about Africa. But what we don't know is that when you take the land area, Africa is roughly about 30 million, square kilometers. And that's a huge continent, right? Perhaps it's the second largest continent in the world. And so most people tend to underestimate Africa. If you really want to know Africa, you understand that Africa is as big as China, US, Western Europe, India, Argentina, the Scandinavian countries, and British Isles combined. So we can do geospatial analysis of Africa in this context. So you can see how big Africa is. So Africa is huge, right? And that is a huge challenge, though. How do you manage all these things? How do you do geospatial covering all this? And that is even not enough. As we are talking about the land area of Africa, we also understand that Africa has about 20% of the world's population, and if you look at the length and breadth of Africa, it stretches so wide. And that itself is a big challenge. More interesting part, in terms of ethnicity, in Africa, we have about 3,000 different ethnic groups. And you see that it manifests itself in terms of languages. So we have about 2,000 different languages. And if you are thinking about Nigeria, for example, which is the most populous African country, they have about 470 different languages. DR Congo follows with about 242. Sudan, both north and south, and Ethiopia. Now, I'm trying to do this not to bore you, but to drive home the point that there's a diverse population in Africa with different backgrounds, different languages, and different orientation. So if you ask me, how do I integrate these people together? When if you move just a kilometer in Nigeria, the language differs. How do we communicate? How do we come together? Look at the diversity. One analyst is saying that, in fact, Africa is the most genetically diverse on Earth, which is true because it's the origin of the universe itself. That is the origin of human beings. And so we can understand that. But you see, as you look at this as constraint, it also presents itself with a whole challenges, which basically means that if you have such a genetic diversification, it means that Africans will never go extinct. If you have a country plagued with multiplicity of languages like this, where people cannot hear you what you say, then it gives an opportunity for us to think about, can we find a different common language? And perhaps GIS provides us a good language, isn't it? If you want to go into GIS, then it means that in our integration, we find a common language, and the language of GIS that we all understand is location, which manifests itself in maps. And so we have an opportunity to think about it. But let's look at the African community. What is a community in itself? When we talk about community, we define community in 4 ways. We have community of place, community of interest, community of action, community in practice, right? Remember, community is different from a group. And so we are not the same. But when you think about community, because they have shared interests, shared background, and shared purpose, it gives them a sense of cohesion. What it basically means is that when we think about how to integrate Africa, we know Africa is a place. We know Africa, we have a common interest, but our interests are a little bit diverse. So, there's unity in diversity. Again, as we think about it, we are not into the same action. So what else will make us or bring us into the same action and the same practice? That is the question that we are addressing today. So we want to also look at how in a community we interact. In African community, most of our interaction will be competition. So we have our football competition here and there. Nigerians will talk about Nigeria Jollof, and Ghana will talk about Ghana Jollof, and we do the competition right there. We have the predator or predation concept, we have mutualism, and we have commensalism and parasitism. These are different ways that in every community there is interaction. But this is where we also have an opportunity here. We have opportunity to change the dynamics and bring in GIS. And so when you look on my screen, we have Africa at one point and GIS at one point. GIS is a community, Africa is a community. When you integrate GIS and community, then you are going to get the Africa and community intersect. And that brings us the paradigm shift here. So we are going to have some Africans who have a GIS, we have Africans who don't have GIS, and then we have the rest of the world who have GIS, particularly if you look at the big companies like Esri and others, they are non-Africans, but they have the GIS. And then we can have our development partners like the World Bank, the multinationals, and all of them sitting somewhere here. Now they are all providing information down here. So once we develop a common language of space and communicating through maps, then now we can now say that then we need to build a new concept, a new integrating system where Africans can interact and now integrate and become one community. And so that is the concept of GIS as a community-based technology. In the GIS of community-based technology, you see GIS practitioners all over the world, scattered all over, looking at it differently. Some in one place, some have shared interests, some have common practice and all that, but they speak one language, and the language is map. What it means is that today, as we build a new concept of integrating Africa into, through the power of GIS, what we are going to build is, I am a Ghanaian, before we realize Ghana will be eliminated. Or probably I'm individual first, and then I become a Ghanaian, and Ghana will be eliminated, then we become African citizens. We all become African citizens with one interest. What is our shared interest? Our interest is the technology that helps us communicate. So I don't have to think about your language. I don't have to think about your culture as different from mine. But we are thinking about what GIS culture. By so doing, we end up building a global community. So we all become a community that works together, thinks together, practice together, take action together. And that is the concept that we are looking at this point. But in so doing, let's see how GIS has been utilized. So you see this concept was taken from, it was actually adapted from ESRI, right? ESRI says that, okay, there will be the executive access to GIS, there will be work anywhere, there will be enterprise integration, public engagement, we develop a community, and then we have the GIS professionals and then knowledge workers. That is a novel idea, right? GIS brings them together. But unfortunately, you see, as we try to talk about an integrated Africa, you're going to see that the public engagement part will mean that we end up only dealing with policy makers. We leave the ordinary citizen at the other side, right? What you've forgotten is that policies in Africa are shaped by public opinion. For instance, public opinion matters when it comes to elections. And so when people start talking about bad rules, people talk about police brutalities and all the other things, then it forces the general policy direction of the country. So government will have to take a decision. Now, going forward, if we are trying to integrate Africa through the power of GIS, then we need to move away from policy-making centered arena into citizens' participation down here. What it basically means is that we need to think in a way that brings all citizens into GIS. They don't need to be creating the map, but they are map consumers. They don't need to even learn how to use ArcGIS, but they can just have it on their phone. You know, by just a click of button, they can see GIS in action. They can track where they are going. They can assess resources and facilities in their neighborhood. They can basically do voting online and everything. You know, people just go online and report that they have symptoms of COVID, just like that. And it comes with just the location where they live. You know, a typical example that has been used in Ghana, where an app was launched. And so if you go into the app and then you basically take a picture of yourself and you send, you indicate that you have symptoms of COVID. There's a new development where even voting in Ghana is now taking a new shape, where there's an application launched on Android platform called I Voted. And if you go there and you download and you zoom, you can go into your polling station and send a message with just a picture of your of that place. And it comes with all the information there to tell people. This is the kind of community that we are building. So we need to move away from policy-centered or the top-down approach concept and go to the bottom to get the citizens' participation. What are the opportunities in Africa for integration? Okay, for far too long, we always think about the big money from the top. So for instance, African platform is, you know, controlled by AU, and AU has about 8 different pillars that help bring the AU together. And then we have the AU institutions like the CDC Africa. We have those free trade agreements, and we have those immigration and other things. These are all beautiful ideas. And I can assure you that these protocols provide opportunity for integration. For instance, CDC Africa, prior to COVID, just launched a competition for people to develop an app. And this app is to help monitoring the health system within Africa everywhere. You know, just post-COVID time, well, I'm calling it post-COVID because COVID went down, but it has resurfaced. There's this Continental African Trade Agreement, which was launched. And these are opportunities, big opportunities, because now you can now trade within each country. You can do business everywhere right now. These days, because of COVID testing at ports of entry and other things, experts are looking for opportunities to actually have a mobile application which can track where people are moving within their countries and everywhere. So these are good platforms. They are big money business. They are big opportunities to highlight yourself, right? There are equally good sub-regional groupings like ECOWAS and CODA people can take advantage of, right? There are also institutional levels. But my concern here, as we integrate it, is how do we start in our own small way, moving into business opportunities to help spread the knowledge and also popularize the technology. You know, for far too long, the big businesses have always contained the business environment. They get all the big projects and all the other things. But you know, when few people use the technology, its popularity gets missing. But when more people can learn how to use the technology, then there will be demand for it, right? So there are opportunities for big businesses, at the same time, new businesses to spring up. Sambus is doing wonderful. I know there's Sambus Nigeria and Ghana, and you have projects in Freetown and other places. How do we take ideas and opportunities from this direction and move forward as we integrate Africa? So we spread the technology to every corner. As individuals, what do we have to do? Remember, Africa is the most diverse, and if you look at African population, actually, it's about the youth are about 48% of the entire population. That provides intellectual dome where we can actually explore. There's diversity, there are good opportunities. So how do we take advantage of the huge population, the intellectual capacity of people in Africa, and use it to build the African we want? That is the concept I'm exploring today when it comes to integration. This wouldn't come without constraints or challenges. As we all know, we live in Africa and we have very huge rural population with limited connectivity, with limited access to mobile phones and other things. But is that still a constraint? Would that still be a problem? You know, again, as you might know, GIS is an expensive business. If you think about the price of just one ArcGIS software, or the price of getting a satellite data or area photo, or even going to the field to collect your own data, think about the cost of training. If I take my own program as an example, the MSc in Geoinformation Science program at the University of Ghana costs about 10,000 Ghana cedis to a Ghanaian in a year. It costs about $5,000 to a West African national to have that degree. It's an expensive business. But can we blame, let's say, Sambus for the price of ArcGIS? What about our governments that put huge tax on softwares, for example? Can we blame somebody for, or a private company for charging so much in collecting data for your GIS project? What about governments who have failed to invest in databases in our country? You know, so these are the critical constraints we need to address as we look at opportunities for integration. Okay. Another point that we also hammering at this point is the fact that there's a complete lack of understanding of spatial thinking and the concept of space among policymakers. It will surprise you to know that most of our policymakers today have no idea of how to use computers. In fact, it's estimated that the average age of an African president, if you take the top 10 presidents in Africa, the average age is 77, telling you that they were born and they went to school at a time where there were no computers, let alone having this a whole GIS concept. It makes it difficult for policymakers to relate to it, to say, okay, can we set up databases? Can we even reduce costs on softwares? Can we provide scholarships for our students to actually take advantage and use this technology? You know, another challenge is that there's, in fact, limited incentive to innovate. because GIS field is quite difficult and it's not rewarding in Africa. How much is an average person paid or GIS analyst paid in Ghana or in Nigeria or in South Africa? You know, so there's real lack of incentive to innovate. These days, the big field for innovation is to become politicians, isn't it? If you become a politician and the next 2 elections, your party wins and you get some big mansion built for you just like that. So how do we make the GIS business lucrative such that people will invest their time and skill in it and to develop it, right? I also see this difficult concept of having a practical skill. Even in schools where we have GIS program, they are all theory based. So thinking about it, why do we, or how do we get opportunity for our youth to go into GIS, but to be able to do a practical based thing, okay? And above all, connectivity. Limited connections, both internet, transport, and everything, making it very difficult for all of us. These are the main challenges that we face as we try to integrate Africa. But I'm saying that all is not lost. How do we turn the tide, you know, by trying to change all these constraints into opportunities? So we need to explore new areas and the new opportunities. And some of the new areas that I'm interested in and I see greater potential is, you know, and I'm sure you heard from the MD of Sambus when she made the introduction, how mobile applications for real-time data collection has become very effective, particularly in some African countries, in Asia and others. You know, if you think about South Korea, for example, how they were using mobile application to track people and people they've had connection with in real time. In Ghana, contact tracing was done using GIS application. So GIS for public health has now become a huge opportunity and a growing area. A very big opportunity for all of us as a community to explore. What we might not have done is how do we use GIS for elections and an electioneering campaign? You know, so we can also explore the big money opportunities. There's also the opportunities to use GIS for census. And I know Ghana Statistical Service is working very hard on their GIS. Above all, there's also the geointelligence part. You know, with the advent of artificial intelligence and big data, geointelligence is becoming so exciting. For instance, one of my students is working on using Twitter information or tweets from Twitter to explore how people are misinforming others on COVID. You know, remember when you are on Twitter and you've enabled your location, whatever information you send on Twitter is actually geotagged. And there's a way that you can actually scrape the data and then you can get the exact location where the person is sending that information from. And that is a huge data. If you can actually get that and download that and geocode it, then you are going to explore a huge amount of data within a particular location that will be very, very useful, you know. One area that we also need to explore today is participatory GIS. And here we are looking at citizens' participation. So we need to develop products that allows ordinary person on the street to actually participate in GIS, enjoy GIS, use GIS. And that is the only way you can get policymakers to get support for it. We are lacking so many spatial statisticians. You know, spatial statistics is missing. We need geodatabases also. We need database administrators because as we are moving around, these are the new era where we are moving. As you can see, these days there are a lot of data warehouse programs are playing, but mostly owned by foreign nationals who have African data and they are selling data online. And so we need to look into this while we move into web GIS and how we do more customization. There's also emerging field of data fusion with the advent of UAVs. People would like to see how you can get your UAV data or images and then merge it with your other data from GIS. So we have sort of data fusion to help us make good decisions. And so these are very interesting opportunities, but there's also the other soft side that we haven't explored at all. How do people create collaborations on the African continent or among African descendants? You know, we need to start building platforms where we can have knowledge sharing platform or skill exchange platform, or where you can even go and search for opportunities. And above all, you need to have networking and mentorship. I decided to put these two professors here. Professor James Line was my first real practical GIS trainer. When he trained me, what he told me was that, Alex, one day you become a big GIS person, just send me a message and say, God bless you. That's all I need from you. I don't need any money. I don't need anything. And now he's an emeritus professor at Ohio University. And I have another emeritus professor, Alan Falconer. Alan Falconer is a renowned GIS scientist. He was among the 50 scientists invited by Pope John Paul to think about land degradation. Professor Falconer is now a retired professor in Canada. These are my mentors, and I work with them. I speak to them. When I have challenges, I consult them. These are the opportunities that we need to create for our youth as we go along if we really want to integrate, because it's a learning curve. Every stage is a learning curve that we need to explore, that we need to create opportunities for others. And these are areas that people can still think about, because you can set up a system that people can relate to. Good opportunities exist for public consumption products, safety and security, data warehousing, application development, and project-based consulting. And I'm putting this in asterisks because what you come to realize is that almost every World Bank project in Africa today requires a GIS consultant. Most of the time, the consulting projects are won by big companies from outside our continent. However, they still need an African to be part of it, in the sense that when it comes to evaluation process, it scores a huge mark. So how do we get a piece of cake out of these? And that is the opportunity for you to look at. I guess we have spoken a bit, and so I want to end up here by saying that we are basically integrating Africa, and Africa is far integrated than what we are thinking, just that we haven't been able to take opportunities. Because I have a little bit of additional information down here that I would like to share later, but I guess I'll stop here for the sake of time for people to share their own experiences, and if you have questions, we'll be willing to explore that. So thank you for your attention, and thank you for having me. And I look forward to a great African integration as we explore ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Berima. Thank you for the in-depth knowledge and breakdown on the subject matter, integrating the African community through GIS. Before I open up to participants, first of all, I would like to ask you two questions, please. Two questions. Okay. First of all, given the nature of our African community, how hostile we are to each other in certain areas, how could African leaders be motivated to work together to achieve this goal? And then secondly, what challenges, right, do you think can be encountered in attempts to engage locals in the use of geospatial technology within their communities?
Okay. All right, thank you very much. I'll take the last one before I come to the first one. Now, when it comes to the ordinary citizen or local people to use GIS in their own communities, there are numerous approaches that have been done, and I can share my own experience with you. I work on a project called Circa Africa, which is basically a climate-based project looking at building a climate resilient communities in the upper west region of Ghana and the northern region. What we saw in the community was basically land conflict among many people. This is because no defined boundaries, you know, so everybody complaining about this. what I led the group to do was to look at what is called participatory GIS. And in participatory GIS, basically, we had handheld GPS, and then we also had tablets, a number of them. We went to one community. We gave this to them and said, okay, show us your boundary. And we had the ArcGIS online on it. And as you might know, below it, there's a streaming opportunity. So when you turn your location and you turn the system on and you turn on streaming, as you walk through your boundary, then the boundary is being mapped. We ended up having the first community walk around their land boundary. Then we went to the second community. We asked them to walk their land boundary. When we finished, we brought them together as a map. And we had a meeting with the two communities. Before we realized their boundary was the same, in reality, there's no dispute. We fixed the problem. Now they agree that, oh, indeed, this. So we created a map for them, and now the community started planting trees along the boundary for them to be sure. That reduces them. Now, what I'm trying to say, there's participatory GIS, where we can bring the people in. The other thing is that they don't need to develop the GIS themselves, but we need to develop a consumable product that they can use in real time. For instance, there's a company operating in the northern part of Ghana, in the dryland regions, that gives early warning to farmers. So what they do is they create evapotranspiration surface and share maps through WhatsApp with the communities. And that's a typical example of how people will consume it and understand that this is really good. There's a second project that I'm working on with a group of people working on HPV virus. And basically what we are doing is use GIS and WhatsApp combined to help people understand the need for them to go and have HPV vaccination to prevent cervical cancer. And so these are opportunities for them to see where they can go, what time they can go, and other things. So these are very important opportunities for all of us. Now, let me go into your first question. He said, the African environment to some extent is hostile to one another as you move from one community to other, and particularly with governments for them to accept the technology. Now, as you may know, we are growing at a point where we no longer can pretend that we are an island and that we can no longer remain hostile to one another. And so now we need to think about a new ways of doing things. Even with the advent of COVID, which we know is not going away today nor tomorrow, you don't need to even physically be out there. Now people are exploring online businesses. So location has now become a very important concept, right? So here is the thinking. The thinking is that at the higher level, there's always that kind of problem, even within one institution. If you want to do a GIS, you are going to have the same challenge. And so I explore an idea that a gentleman by the name Al Butler, a renowned transportation GIS person, said. He says, in the field of GIS, there are two problems. One is human problem, and the second one is data problem. Human problems can never be solved. What it means is that you need to convert the human problem into data problem for you to solve it. What do I mean by that? Whenever you are introducing GIS to people, they are resistant because they know that basically they can't even change and learn how to do it. So they don't want the idea to come up. When you talk to them, they can't relate to it. It becomes challenging. What you can do is don't talk to them, convert everything into analytics and maps, create a product, show them products. And once people see it and they see it can fix their problem, now they begin to relate to it. And that is how over the years, people have used that approach to sort of motivate others to get into the concept of GIS. Because after all, what we are talking about is location. We are not talking in Chi, we are not talking in Igbo, for you to disagree with us. But if you can see it, we say picture speaks better than 10,000 words. And I guess that would be a good approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Barima. We have 3 hands raised now. So I think if you would we have 4 now. So if you can quickly ask your questions, and then I'd first welcome Victor Sunday to ask questions, please.
Hello, yeah, thank you very much. I really don't have any question, but I do appreciate what the speaker have said, especially in the area of mentorship. Very, very important. And I think our challenge in that area is actually seeing a way of carrying the younger ones along, especially when they don't even see the need for mentorship. Sometimes they don't see the need for mentorship, but then there should be passion for mentoring, and anyone who is actually ready for mentoring the young ones will always find a way to pull them along, and along the line they will follow up. I appreciate all the presentation, and it's a cool one. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Victor. I think the next person is Dosu. Is Dosu. So if you can ask your question, please, and your suggestions, your additions, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, John. Okay. So, thank
yes,
you,
please.
John.
Yes, please. We can hear you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Barrymore. And this is quite insightful. Yeah. So I have just 2 questions for you. The first one is that you spoke about getting government involved in geospatial data collection or analysis, something related. So my question is that how do we get government buy-in into geography information system? I remember as far as when I was doing my graduate days, when I had a course in the remote sensing, satellite remote sensing system, we spoke about Nigeria SAT-1, SAT-2, and there was a policy then, and today, that policy remains a policy, and they've not implemented it. So how do we get government buy-in into geography information systems? So my question borders around geo-intelligence, and that was quite insightful. Seeing your students in carrying out his thesis in this area. So I remember here in Nigeria we had crisis on NSAS, and there was so many information about fake news, fake videos being reloaded on the internet, and it was quite difficult to know where these videos were being uploaded from, so that we'll be able to determine the authenticity of the video. So how is your student? I know you spoke about enabling your the GPS location on your phone, and from there you can be able to gather information from Twitter. So I want to know how you were able to do this without Joe enabling your location on your phone. Those are the 2 questions for me.
All right. Thank you very much, Josu. And thanks for your question. Quite an interesting question. Yeah, I would say let's take the government getting involved in the GIS. I can assure you that it's not that difficult to get governments involved. Now, you see, governments always look at what is public demand, because remember, the government objective is get elected the next time. As soon as a government takes office, all his actions are geared towards how do I get elected the next time. That's all they think about. And the second thing they think about is how do I make my pocket rich? Okay. So they always look at opportunities to create something that people can see, that they can vote for them. So for instance, people are promising things like roads, airport, schools, free, so free, that is equally perfect. But now people have realize that there's real need for the soft side of things when you get into trouble, for example. So for me, the best approach is to spread the news about GIS, get more people to understand GIS by creating products or what is called user-friendly products with intelligence in it. I'll give you an example. So during the lockdown in Ghana, and I think this day was about the 4th of April, I had opportunity to do a presentation explaining how COVID is spreading in Ghana. And I went with a web application and a real live feed from the field with people who were doing monitoring of COVID, doing the contact tracing. And I had the president, the vice president, and all the big people sit. And I could show them every minute when somebody pick a point, quickly it comes up. And then I had the opportunity to have worked with Noguchi to develop an application. As soon as they test and it's positive, it also hits back to the dashboard. When they looked at this, they asked me, so how did we do this? And going forward, how are we going to actually do something better? Then I have to explain. And this is where I have my thing saying, assuming I have the opportunity to even speak to just one person, the person takes me to the president, and then I start talking about GIS and GIS in stories. How would they feel? Because I can tell you that prior to this, I met the vice president of Ghana twice talking about GIS and the need for the country to push GIS, right? So all that we need to do as GIS people is to make our voices heard by converting all our thoughts into GIS products. And when people see it, they see the reality and that's where they buy in. Because they don't care about it. In reality, doing GIS database in the country will not get them elected. But getting a useful product that people are actually demanding will actually get them elected. I have another opportunity when they talk about the youth employment program, speaking to a minister and said, we need to create a GIS model in the youth employment because it's a skill that is needed in every city, every district, every region in the country. Nobody hears about that. But if you have the opportunity to actually create a boot camp, for example, where you have so many youth attending the boot camp and learn how to create map and collecting data, and when COVID strikes, and you'll be able to use the map to show where things are, then you begin to draw attention to it. Because the reality is that it is not something that they are going to get free, they need to pay. And nobody will spend money on the soft side when they know it won't elect them. So first thing is get the things done as GIS community, no matter what, in your small way, get something done and you'll be appreciated. Now, I spoke about geointelligence. Geointelligence is basically a spatial analytical decision concept that helps you to find critical information in location that you deal with. And this has become a very big one in the world in the sense that all the intelligence community are using it. They use data fusion to help them get precise information in responding to ambulance service, fire service, police, the immigration and the army, all of them are using it. Even ordinary people, businesses are now using geointelligence as a key. Now coming to what my student was doing, as I said, Twitter has a link that allows you to geotag your tweet. And in fact, most people don't know, you don't even do it yourself. Once your location is on, it automatically geotags all your tweets. And it's not only Twitter, but there are a lot of applications running now that have that. If you use Android, anywhere you are, Android is basically tracking your movement. It's plotting every location you go every single day. And so, because people don't know, your phone automatically is, it turns your location on. That is the default setting. And so as you are going, you are actually plotting, and you can go into your history and track everywhere you have been. The same way that Twitter is actually doing. And there's a program, a free program online that you can actually use, and then you can get a Twitter APIs, and you use that to scrape the data. And once you scrape the data, it comes with the location information, which is the latitude and longitude, and you can plot it and get exactly where you are. Most applications these days are going geotagging. And in fact, if you use iPhone, anytime you take a picture anywhere, iPhone automatically codes your location. If you haven't checked it, if you go into your iPhone and you scroll down, you pick a picture and you scroll down to the bottom, you are going to see Google Earth map popping up, similar to, or it's something like that. And it can zoom you to exact location where you are. So on your phone, it's enabled. The challenge with some of them is that it doesn't pick the exact information, the location of the information, but Twitter does. It does pick the location. So you can actually scrape it and get the type of information and track it to exact location where it was sent for. What we were doing with my student was to try to see how we can help government, because we realized that misinformation about COVID rather leads to infections. But if people can actually provide good information, then that you can actually reduce infection. And that is what the project is about. There will be a paper on it coming up, I think somewhere in the next 2 months, about how these processes are done and all the steps have been coded. We are also looking up to publishing it at the Remote Sensing and GIS application website. And hopefully we will share with the community as we go along. The last comment will be on the mentorship, as somebody said. You see, most people don't look for mentorship because they don't know the opportunities that comes with it. And it's about time you all start. If you actually start something, you see people participating in it. So we need to begin from somewhere to generate interest and let people know the essence of it. And I'm sure people will be happy to buy into it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Berima. I think we have Chimozom on what do you call it? Raise his hand. So I think question wants to be asked. The next is Peters, please.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello, you have the floor, please.
All right. I'm Chima. I'm calling from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm quite very happy already. First day of this conversation, I'm already geared up, seeing the opportunities that the doctor has actually opened our eyes to see. Rather to also lend a hand to what he said about geocoding. I think the fellow should also know that your map, your Android phones can actually give you, if you go to Google Maps, it can give you a summary of your daily itinerary as you walk around places you visited for a week or month even. But doctor, one thing that we have really hammered on is the issue of data. And I know a lot of people, if you are just a new person in GIS, you begin to ask yourself, especially when you're running some maybe little courses on ESR and S3 site, you find out that you are playing around with data, robust data that people actually collected and analyzed. And you begin to ask yourself, how do I access this huge information that I can use to run analysis on different issues of life? In Africa, and particularly in Nigeria, I doubt if we have huge data banks that people can put their hands on. So if I'm a private person and I want to do some things that will help me in GIS, and I run into the issue of data, how do I navigate? How do I circumvent that problem? That is the number one question for me. And then you talked about the beautiful things that individuals can do, that you can start from your own little space to develop applications that you can present to people and that will actually make them understand the usefulness of GIS. Now, the question is, what is the entry requirement? Because, Doctor, we can see how impressive your CV is. Some of us are just beginners, For me, although I have a background in geophysics, GIS is new to me, but not really new because some of the terms I've already, acquainted with. So what am I supposed to do as a beginner in GIS to begin to explore the tremendous opportunities that you've enumerated in your discussion with us? Do I rely on the little courses that I do on my own, or do I really go back to school and obtain a master's in GIS? And then talking about mentorship, Doctor, I think we can start with you being, helping some of us. I know it's going to be a Herculean task for you because you have your work cut out for you. Can you really, donate some part of your time for some of us to begin to be mentored by you? And you can give us your time schedule so that we do not make things difficult for you in that aspect. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so let me start by answering your question for mentorship. I think there's a number of opportunities for mentorship. You can look at it from internship position. For instance, I have made it a compulsory, even though it's not a university requirement, that at my level 300 introduction to GIS class, if you take that class, you have to go and do internship. By so doing, you get linked up with practitioners and professionals who will help you out. There's also an organization, I think it's called Mandela. It's based in Africa. It's almost in every country. It's a mentorship program. By what they do, they are matchmakers. So I think last year, I had one student from Nigeria that I worked with. What they do, you apply to them and they find you people within your field who can mentor you. I've forgotten the name, but it's Mandela something. I'll find it and I'll get it to Sambus for them to post into their website. So if you were really looking for a mentorship, it wouldn't mind, they can link you to somebody in US, Ghana, South Africa, everywhere. I've also seen a lot of people thinking about this way. My lab, for instance, we also take interns, especially those who are into research and they want to apply GIS. I think last 2 years, we took somebody from Mali. She was a PhD student also. So we still have the opportunity, and we also accept people to come in so that we can help them, mentor them on that basis. And like I said, if you look for the opportunity, you will definitely find. Now, you asked about the entry requirement as a beginner into the GIS market. Honestly, it's a very competitive environment. It's an innovative environment in the sense that, when the global economy crashed from the 2006-7 thereabout, GIS field was the only field that did not suffer. So we had a lot of people moving from computer science, computational science, and programming into GIS. So today you see that GIS has become more programming oriented. It's actually all importation, right? Now, that is why you have to stay focused. You have to learn how to build your capacity and explore. Python has become one key program language that helps people to do a whole lot of that. I'm not saying you need to go and do master's or PhD to enter the market. You need to have the skill. And that is why I talked about practical based skill, your ability to do it. And you build that on partnerships. You work with and collaborations, okay? So you might see that GIS is something that you can't do alone. So I have done GIS in Japan while I'm in Ghana. I've done GIS projects in Germany from Ghana. I've done GIS project. In fact, I've gone to India to do GIS. And Indians have so many GIS people, but yet it's your collaboration with people that leads you there. Anybody hiring a GIS person looks for your experience, so your ability to do it, the projects you have executed. So you do project, you keep track of all what you have done, you post some online, develop your own portfolio, and you start marketing yourself. That is where you get from. If you can do a master's degree, perfect, because there will be some projects that will require a minimum qualification of masters also. But I can assure you that you need to get your skill right. Ability to do it is what puts you on the market. The final one was on data. And you said, like in Nigeria, it's quite difficult to find data, and I'm aware of that because I've been to Nigeria a number of times. Equally in Ghana, data is quite difficult because there are no government databases. The reason why you find databases from outside world like US and co is that their country government sponsors projects. And in US, when you take US government money to do a project, you have to make the data available for free. That is why Landsat data is free. Okay, that's why USGS data is free. In our country, we don't have government sponsoring projects. Unfortunately, even when government signs agreement to sponsor projects, they don't make the data available. And it's the policy environment that is restricting that. So we need to change the narrative. And I know Ghana, for example, Ghana Geospatial data policy was initiated somewhere in 2008. Up to today, it hasn't even come out. However, I'm saying that there are still opportunities there. We as geospatial scientists need to create our own data and then start building it. So for instance, in my own lab, we started doing an application, and the application was meant for data sharing. And it's a free data. Anybody at all can upload your data and take credit for it. Unfortunately, individuals think that they have to sell their data and they don't share. We've done a lot about it, people don't share. That notwithstanding, there are still tons of available free data online that you can get. We all know OpenStreet. We know of a free police. We know of FAO having data and all that. I think I even mentioned a couple of them here. So for instance, if you come here, you know, we have the Afripolis, we have the OpenStreet, and I know of ESRI launching the African Geo Portal, which is also a free data. I also know of something like this. The ESRI is actually joining with Afro Champions to create this awareness into the African partnership and make data available. So there's so much data sitting online, some of them free. But in addition to this, there are other private organizations that do data warehousing, and they have a lot of data available for sale. It comes back to when you are doing your project, the way you do your costing. I personally know that GIS is a very expensive business. So when I'm actually bargaining or I'm doing my budgeting for any project, the data creation becomes a huge part of the project. So you need to build that cost component into your project. Unfortunately, a lot of people are sitting on data. They don't use it. They don't share with the general public. And what they don't know is that when the data is not used, it becomes useless in the first place. And so for me, all my data is available for free. But unfortunately, my data is on Ghana, not Nigeria, not in South Africa, not in East Africa. That's the downside. So I'm praying and look hard to see where we can start sharing ideas and think about how do we create one platform, like a one-stop shop for all African data, and everybody goes there and get data for free and use it for his own way. And I hope it will happen one day. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Doctor. We have a few hands raised, 2 hands raised, and also 2 questions in the Q&A box. So I'll read that out quickly. From Eric Doe, programming language such as Python and R are frequently used by businesses and companies of all sizes. What are the pros and cons of using these programs compared to ArcGIS in the African community? That's the first question. And then the second one to you, Doctor. Hello, Doctor. Please, my question is that how do we integrate the use of GIS in the various sectors, divisions of public institutions in Ghana and Africa as a whole, who have not utterly forgone the manual way of creating maps and are not ready to accept the GIS from young graduates who find themselves with GIS background in our public institutions? So if you can round up the answers within 2 minutes.
Okay.
Great, please.
Thank you. Eric, as you might know, ArcGIS actually runs on Python, and R has been great in all that. The challenge with individuals going this path is that not everybody is programming savvy, and a lot of times it requires a lot of work and editing. So ArcGIS, for example, has already been programmed. So somebody has sat down and used the Python to create the program, and now it becomes add and drop. Then you have the GUI, that's the computer graphic interface that makes you add and drop. So really there's no downside. If you are very good in doing it, you can do that. And you know, Arc Engine, for example, allows you to even do extensions. So you can reprogram part of it to do specifics. But you starting from the scratch to the end becomes very, very difficult for you to do. That's why all these programs are integrated in the ArcGIS. So the R part is actually in there that you can do. The second question is from Keteko. Well, Fred, trust me, the transformation is quite fast than you are thinking. In fact, in Ghana, almost all public institutions are now creating GIS department. For instance, Lands Commission is now saying that now they are going digital, everything has to be GIS, and their employees, if you don't know GIS, they're actually going to eliminate you. So almost everybody from Lands Commission is now trooping to go and do GIS. If I have to enumerate that, Statistical Service, for instance, is now recruiting so many GIS people for census, right? Ministry of Road and Transport, they have their own GIS. EPA has their own GIS. The last meeting I had with, I had a discussion with a Chief Director from Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation. We actually even tried to develop a program together to set up a one-stop shop emergency response center, which is purely GIS based. And I think I wrote a component of it. So really, it's not new. Public sector, they have now realized the need for integration of GIS, and they are doing that. It probably seemed a bit slow because of budgetary issues. And also the fact that most of them have so many people, so they are now retraining their people into GIS. I know we've had program with Ghana Police Service. Sambus also had program with them. We've had program with NADMO. We've had program with Fire Service. So these are institutions that don't just recruit from outside. So they would like to actually train people within. And that is why you will see it as if it's so slow, but really a lot of them are now doing GIS. And so there are so many opportunities in Ghana, and I'm sure you have even seen Statistical Service send an advert about 2 months ago, recruiting GIS people. So I'm sure you very soon you will see a big change in the system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. We have Peter's who's raised his hand, so I think wants to ask some questions. And Peter, if you can kindly be brief with your questions, please.
All right. From my time zone, good afternoon, everybody. Hello.
Yeah,
hello. We can hear you.
All right. I want to appreciate the organizers of this program. Not to take more of our time again in the protocols. I think it's worth saying that you guys are doing great, bringing this to some of us, even in our offices. I'm Mokocha Bartholomew Peters. I am a surveyor, geometrician, that's a land surveyor, as we call it. I happen to be the chairman of the Association of Practicing Surveyors in Imo State of Nigeria, and I operate from Owerri. A very simple question is that the association I lead here, we've been trying in the recent times to get our members to go beyond the day-to-day things we do as surveyors and, if possible, expand into GIS and see how it could improve on the quality of what we present and the quality of life we live, our income and all. I mean, everybody here keeps talking about data, data, data. I think in the whole gamut of GIS, a whole lot of the data, especially the geolocation data, is acquired by the surveyor. And that's basically what he does. So the whole lot of that data too, you have private people here, gather them and maybe offer service to one individual or the other or corporation, and it just stays there. So we're looking for ideas, and I would wish we could get some inputs on how we can get our members to move from seeing themselves as just people who go to get data from somewhere and the data remains there. Maybe you provide a plan or sketch or something for someone, to expanding into making this data available at what kind of platforms and earn some sort of income out of it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I get your question. I must say, data is quite important now and very expensive business. And as you can see, in your daily work, you do a lot of data collection. What I'm thinking is the association need to create a data warehouse. So you can now collect data and do a data pool. You can also do a joint with other organizations that do data warehouse and sell data. However, the challenge is the data accuracy. You need, and somebody has even put a question out there, you need to actually have data standards in terms of accuracy standards, and you are going to have what we call spatial accuracy, attribute accuracy, lineage, and all of that as part of it, and even metadata accuracy. Once we are able to do this, a lot of people will actually buy your data. I had the opportunity to work in Boulder County in the US, and the assessor's office make a lot of money from building footprints, because developers and other people all need building footprints to show where the buildings are, available lands and all that. And people just buy the data and they sell the data online. If you go online right now, I've seen about 10 or something different companies that create data, sell the data to African continent, and they have data on the African continent, even though they are foreign owned, right? So basically, I think that that is very important that you do that. The second thing is that you need to have your members retrained. They don't need to go and get a degree. They need to take short courses to upgrade themselves. Like Sambus run short courses. My lab, most sensitive and GIS application lab, we run short courses like 10 days and all that. We have different packages for different people. So the main issue is that you need to have a centralized system that will control the organization, provide opportunity for them, and in return, take the data, package the data, and in a way that people would need it and sell it to them. And I think that can be a very good money making.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Would go back to take the last two questions from the participants. Can we get Uma Kanyeri, please? Uma Kanyeri.
Yes, I'm Uma Kanyeri, speaking from Ghana, Upper West.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I'm a graduate from University of Education, Winneba. I did economics major, geography minor. But upon my interaction with other friends, later on had interest in GIS. But I had a little challenge because I didn't have the opportunity to do GIS at my undergrad level. So I wanted to know from Dr. Berima if there's a way for me in the field of GIS, and what is the advice for someone without GIS background on the undergrad level. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Uma. Uma, to be honest with you, you don't even need a background to start GIS. If you apply to the MSc Geoinformation Science program at the Department of Geography, all we require is a minimum of lower, second class lower. You don't need to have a background. We teach people from the scratch. We've had people from religions, business people. We've even had people who are engineers from electrical engineering coming in. We have people who have a background in African dance. They come in and do GIS and they excel. So you really don't need to have a background to start with in our program. In terms of short courses too, I don't think you still need a background. You don't. You can be taught from the scratch and you will still be fine. And I'm sure if you want to pursue a career in it, I mean, opportunities are there. What I would tell you to do for a start is just look online. Coursera, for example, has a free online course that you can take. It's a practical base. I think Harvard has some online practical course. It's about 19 hours. So you probably will spend about 4 or 5 days or something doing it. ESRI has some online courses which are free that you can do it just to get yourself started with something, you know, and then you can actually get yourself going. So there are so many opportunities around there and you don't need to have a background. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. There's just one more question, the last question, and it's in the chat box. It says from an anonymous person, it says, how important is accuracy and precision, most especially spatial accuracy to the GIS community, please? You have 1 minute to answer that, please.
Okay, well, accuracy is very important. You don't want to deceive people because people are going to use your data for decision making. And so you need to, accuracy is one of the key indicators of data quality. And that's not only that, all the other measurements, 4 measurements of data quality and their subs are equally important. So for us, you need to follow what your country data standards say. If your country says we need 95% spatial accuracy, you need to follow that. And so you collect data, you validate data and make sure it's accurate. US requires 95. Ghana, we don't have standard. I don't know about Nigeria, but it's about time we adopt standard, a minimum of 90 in terms of accuracy. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you for the insightful presentation. We've had several questions from participants. We've shared a lot of knowledge.
Hello, John. Sorry
yes,
about that. I've posted in the chat room the name of the mentorship program.
Okay, Mandela Washington. Yeah.
Yes.
Mandela Washington Fellowship Mentorship. So you can look in the chat room and you would see the name Mandela Washington Fellowship Mentorship. So you can always Google and find out, get more details on that. So thank you very much, Doctor, for the presentation. Very insightful. We've learned a lot. We also want to thank Madame Damilola. We know she's having problems with the technology, but what we'll do is we have two more seminars or 2 more webinars during the week. So she's going to connect onto one of them, please. So I would say from on Wednesday, our next webinar is going to be on the topic Africa Geoportal. And I hope for those of you who haven't registered, you would register so that you join us same time Wednesday, so that you would get more information on African Geoportal. This is going to be run by staff from Esri. So I look forward to meeting you all on Wednesday. So have a lovely day and thank you very much for connecting with us.